What's up? This is Mr. Second Passport. If you've been following me, the last few months I've been doing videos in Spanish, right? But now I'm back to doing English again. Just testing the waters. Uh, Today we're gonna cover a very confusing topic right now regarding where I live, Ecuador, and that is what are the current quarantine requirements exactly? Because big websites, big news sources like CNN got it got it way wrong. Like I just read a few days ago. We're here August 5th, 2020. This is a very fluid situation. It is changing. But as of now, as I'd say about August, September of 2020, this is what you can expect if you want to travel to Ecuador. Okay, so here we are, August 5th. In order to really understand what's going on, we got to go back in time a little bit. All right, and I'll explain to you what's going on. Okay, so here we are, March 15th. For me, it's when the stock market crashed. It's when the NBA closed its season. You know, the airports around the world just closed completely from one day to the next, same as in Ecuador. I'd say that the D Day was March 15th, right? And from then, for the next couple weeks, and actually for throughout the whole month of April, there was just a lot of people because I work at a hotel, Quito Airport Suites, here near the airport, international airport in Quito. And so I have really have firsthand knowledge of what's been going on here as far as people trying to go in and out of the country. And for those first couple weeks in March, I'd say for about a week, people were just stranded and they were freaking out. And even a few gringos that were staying in my hotel, Americans, they're the worry birds more than any other country in the world, I think. And I can say that because I'm an American myself, but I've been living in Ecuador and abroad for well over 10 years now. And I am actually, as the name suggests, a dual citizen now of Ecuador. I applied and got my second passport. So, um, people were stuck, and I even had some worry birds think that they were stuck permanently, and they bought private jets from Quito to Miami, a 4-hour flight. Guess how much they paid? $68,000. Now, it fits about 13 people, and you pay the same price if you fly one person or 13. That's how these private jets worked. But that's how much a couple different groups of people ended up paying. But after about a week here of no flights whatsoever, right around the 23rd, right when the market was starting to start to recover, its amazing recovery, um, humanitarian flights started out, generally out, no in for almost the whole month of April. And then finally, they started allowing humanitarian flights in May, and in the first few days of May and last few days of April, people were coming in and infecting other people, and Ecuadorians were getting pissed, and so was the government. So they made this quarantine. So right around the beginning of May, they made this mandatory quarantine requirement of 14 days. No outs, no way to get around it. For about the first half of May. And then, bam, right around the 15th of May, they made another change where you could leave the mandatory hotel quarantine in only certified hotels like ours, Quito Airport Suites, near the Quito Airport. Had to throw that shameless plug in. They made the change to a 14-day quarantine, or you could do mandatory 7 days with, then you could take a COVID test, and if negative, you could go home. Right around the end of May, beginning of June, they made another change where if you're under 18 or over 65, you could then do quarantine in house. And if you are not, then you still had to do the hotel quarantine, 7 or with test or 14 days with no test. And then right around the beginning of July, right, they made another change where if you bring the test, if you take a PCR, one of the good tests for COVID, there's a few different ones. You can take the rapid swab test, mouth swab, which they often do to you randomly in the airport on arrival anyway, but it doesn't count. Or you can take the what they consider to be the better good PCR test, COVID test, within 3 days of travel. And if you bring those negative test results, you do not have to do any hotel quarantines. They might make you sign a paper saying you're going to do a home quarantine, but it's not really that well enforced. Okay. Also, there's the there's still the quarantine requirements of 14 days with no test or 7 days, and then the test afterward if you come with no test. And then right around the middle to end of July, I've noticed that the rules have stayed the same, but the enforcement has been lacking, severely lacking. Before, in May, when the quarantine was first on incoming people was first established, it was super strict. The police literally brought you from the airport, and the police called the hotels every single day to make sure you were here and doing the quarantine, and you needed that permission from that permission slip from the Ministry of Health here in order to be able to leave your quarantine. But I've noticed a lot of people arriving now on commercial flights. Commercial flights started around the beginning of June again, and they kind of picked up in July, and they're picking up a little bit here in the beginning of August. And I'm noticing almost nobody's doing quarantine, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of enforcement. Okay, that's the honest to God truth. That's what I'm seeing. But the rules are technically still on the book, which is this: bring the PCR test if you just want to be safe, right? If you want to be sure you're going to glide right through with no problems on arrival and immigration, bring that PCR test results negative within 3 days of travel, and you should glide right through with no quarantine requirements. Big news sources like CNN are still saying Ecuador requires a mandatory 14-day hotel quarantine, which is simply not true. Okay, and if you are over 65 or under 18, you don't even need to bring the test. You still don't have to do the hotel quarantine. You can qualify for home quarantine, okay, or wherever you're staying quarantine. And so that's the idea. I've noticed, in the last week or two, they're not even really enforcing the quarantine on people who should be doing the quarantine, which I don't know if I'm fully in agreement with. I think they should continue to enforce, but I'm just stating what's going on here. You know what I mean? And this might affect you if you want to travel to Ecuador. So there is still a quarantine requirement for people under 65 and over 18, but you legally don't have to do it if you come with that negative COVID test within 3 days of travel.